license or, suspending of the license or whatever. You said judge, and it's really hearing officer, or are these two different things?
Let me walk through this one more time. The flow has to be for grounds for suspension or revocation. This is the flow that it has to be. The hearing officer comes into play after suspension has been recommended or revocation has been recommended. But before you can get to a hearing officer, here's what has to happen. We have to get a complaint, probably a series of complaints in real life is what it's going to be. We have to go investigate the complaint. One of Jerry or Chris's folks has to determine that, yes, this is a justified complaint. It's not just a neighborhood dispute. It's not just this resident doesn't like the fact that they're next to a kennel. It is a justified complaint about noise. They're not doing what they need to do. They write a citation. That goes to the municipal courts department. There's a court date. That person that received the citation has to go to their court date, and if they request a jury trial or a trial by judge, whatever happens, however they avail themselves of the judicial process, what has to happen at the end of that is a guilty finding. That's your one. And then that has to happen 2 more times inside of 12 months for that to be grounds for suspension.
Then what was the hearing officer that we talked about last time?
So the hearing officer, what happens after that highly improbable chain of events
Okay.
is that we would take action to suspend or revoke a license. That's when we notify you that we're taking action to suspend or revoke your license. This is the information on the date and time and location of when your hearing is going to occur. That's going to be overseen by a hearing officer. And when you receive that notice, it's going to tell you you have the right to legal representation. You can call witnesses. You can bring, if you think there's other evidence, photos or sound recordings, whatever you may have. You can bring all that to the hearing, but that's when the hearing officer comes into play.
But it will not be the municipal, it will be the city employee, it will be the hearing officer that.
It will be a municipal court employee who does hearings. So it isn't anybody from our department, it will be a municipal court employee who comes out, and they specifically are trained to do hearings, they're attorneys, and they will be the ones that are the independent decider.
But I urge again, that is after the chain of highly improbable, the conditional probability of any fans and statistics of those infinitesimal. But so we get a complaint, those complaints are substantiated and result in a citation. You go to your court date, you can either pay it, and that can be and say, I'm guilty, right? So that's your one. That's your one notch in the belt that goes against your tally. You could say, I want to have a trial by judge on this, I'm not buying it. And the judge still says, yeah, but you're guilty. That's your one. You can go trial by jury, however long it takes to set the trial, whether or not you reset the trial date, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. After all those things happen 3 times, that's when the hearing officer gets involved.
Okay, thank you.
3 times in 12 months.
12 months.
So every year you start,
Yep.
that's technically what it means.
So my third question is, since we're lifting, it used to be that pet owners, because it used to be the arbitrary number of 3 or more dogs in one particular, 3 or more is what the law stated is. Okay, we'll go with what Chris says on 4. Is that going to also be lifted to pet owners? In
Yep.
other words,
So that's gone. That is gone.
So an owner can have more than.
pet owners now can have 5 dogs?
As long as you're not, and it's-
Provided.
Okay. No, you don't have to have a kennel license now.
Exactly, that's the point. They still can't be nuisances.
Right,
Right.
but
No, that's the point. I mean, we were unnecessarily capturing people. Say they had an acre of land. Well, the law said that you couldn't have more than, if you had 4 dogs, you had to get a kennel license. You had to get inspected, you had to pay the additional fee to get this thing, and you had to be 100 feet away, blah, blah, blah.
so a foster family, regular pet owners will no longer need to apply for kennel licenses since there's not that minimum
It is
requirement.
not anchored to the quantity of dogs. It is anchored to,
No, we don't.
No,
Okay,
if
my
you're
question
operating
is-
as a shelter, though, that's a difference.
Okay, thank you.
My question
Yeah,
goes
let's
to the passing of title
to an animal by bark to the rescues. And, as well, most of us know the rescue law, there's a court case on it right now.
Yeah.
But the 30-day period that is in the ordinance, to me, since it has a chilling effect, I think it should be that bark has, that it's written so that bark can pass good title, animals are property, a good title in the rescues, and we change the presumption that way of getting the animal back or not. Otherwise, we basically become a government agency impounding an animal for 30 days after we get it, if the owner has the right to redeem it. And we cannot pass the title to a doctor's when that happens. And I kind of come at this from, if bark has the right to kill the animal at the end of the impoundment, why does the bark have the right to pass good title?
I'll tell
As
you
a
what.
policy matter.
No. So we were going down that same line that what we're trying to do is eliminate uncertainty from the rescues, right? The 30 days came from, that's what we have as it applies to us in 137. So that we're best intentions and perhaps can always improve, right? But that was, okay, we've got this, so let's apply it over here because there's nothing there. So, got it.
Well, and
Got
also,
it.
just to cite another possible outcome of that, if we as a rescue take an animal, let's say we get it on our own, a rescuer gets it
Yeah.
spayed, and it turns out somebody shows up, says, that was my prized breeding dog, I'm now going to sue you for having had it spayed. You have converted my property from a breeding to non-breeding less valuable. And if bark doesn't pass good title, we're hanging out there.
Yeah. Steve brought that up earlier. I know that, we're looking at language that exists in Brazoria County. I know Steve has said that one of his colleagues could provide some pretty solid language to us. We'd love to see it. The last thing, we're entirely interested in making sure that there's nothing hanging over rescues head.
And I accept the good intentions,
Yeah.
no matter how.
We're not there yet, you got it.
And I'm going to send you separately on, I know it's late, so on the comments you have come out on the side about definition of humane organization, whether that yet gets quite the where to go on foster care.
So we've got, just want to, 2-minute warning, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Real quick, everybody's hung up on that number 4 and the suspension or revocation, which will never happen. It will never happen if someone's going to have 3 convictions within a 12-month. It will never, ever happen in this lifetime. But 1, 2, and 3 do not require a 12-month period for a certain number. So 1, 2, or 3, you can have your license suspended and then you get the appeal process. So 4 is never going to happen, but 1, 2, and 3 that you need to worry about. If you're cruelly treating an animal, depriving food, you're going to get your license suspended, hopefully,
That's exactly
in front of the court. So let's concentrate on 1, 2, and 3. 4 is never going to happen. Did I say that? Never going to happen.
I mean, it could, but for that, look, I think we've David beating this to death, but for that to happen, it would take a really negligent operator that is not really that aware of how to negotiate.
Mr. Pratt, you have a list of winning.
So this is yeah. Let's stop here, and then I know you've got a question. Let's talk just after we finish, so everybody else can go and anybody who wants to listen, I can say. In terms of timeline, we have a spot kind of held for us right now for the next council committee on public safety, which is October 22nd and 23rd. I think that we're generally on the same page with most people. I think a lot of you would probably like to see where we end up, specifically with breeding. There's been some other revisions that we need to make. We would like to get this done because I think we're not very far away from getting this done. So we'd like to have the council act on this in the near term, meaning inside of the next couple of weeks. But that is entirely contingent on everyone feeling like their voice has been adequately heard and they've been engaged sufficiently. So I think it's reasonable to expect that we can get this done by the end of the year. I hope everyone agrees that we're not very far apart. We're not going to, the last thing that we're going to do is slam this through the council agenda so that nobody can raise their hand and say, wait a minute, I still have questions. But what will happen is we would like to go to the public safety committee before we go to the city council. Whether or not that public safety committee meeting occurs October, November, December is kind of to be determined by the work that we do after we get into the office tomorrow and take the feedback and try to make it materialize. I hope that answers your question. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to come over here and put us on. It's got you, Jackson. Autograph,